Welcome to The Intuitive Therapist with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, here on the Intuitive Therapist podcast. So glad to be speaking with y'all today. I just got back from being in Nashville for the weekend. I'd never been, and my boyfriend decided to take me as a birthday gift, and it was so much fun. It was crazy busy. We saw all these people on those little, I guess, open trucks or transits where, they're cranking all the music and the bridal parties are there and all these people are partying. It was insane, but it was so much fun. Great to get out of Dodge. And now I'm back for another week of work and another week of sharing thoughts with y'all. When I was thinking about the next new batch of messages I wanted to share with you, this came up first and foremost for me. And I feel like this past week working with my clients, or really for the most part, all of the time that I work with my clients, the goal is for them to really find their voice, to use their voice, and to live in truth. And I want to talk about that today because there's such power in finding your voice and using it. They're two different things. When I was a little girl, I was very outgoing. I still am. But I was challenged with ADD. It's called the impulsive type. So I struggled a lot. I struggled a lot with dyslexia, with comprehension and focus, and most often with a filter from my words and thoughts. So in other words, stuff would fly out of my mouth, right? So I literally couldn't prevent that. I got into a lot of trouble with my parents and teachers because that shit was on my mind. Whatever was on my mind would just fly out of my mouth. And so it was kind of like I just did not have that ability to not say what came to my mind. So, I got a lot of detention for my mouth, y'all. And I spent many years of my life feeling like a constant screw up, in all honesty, because of that. And because of my academic performance, really, over the years, it just did not accurately display how smart I really was. And back when I was coming up, they didn't have testing. They didn't have all this amazing stuff, all these resources to help a learning challenged child like me. I went into some special reading class, but I don't know that it really helped. But it certainly was smaller than the normal class. But I guess they were trying to help me do some reading. I don't know. It was hilarious. Not much advanced intervention for me. But for several reasons, other than the ones I just mentioned, my self-esteem suffered a lot, and the choices that I made for myself as I grew up just seemed like I was just kind of stepping from one pile of shit to the next. And that's why I kind of felt like a failure, so to speak, or a screw up, because, my family would look at me and they'd say, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep making these choices? And the only message I got from them is that, at least with that, they love me, but they're watching from the outskirts, like outliers, and they're just witnessing the deep dive that I was taking into nowhere. And really, for most of my life, I really didn't know who I was. I mean, I knew my personality. Like I said, I was always outgoing, fun, friendly, but in many ways, the way I was raised didn't allow for me to have my own decision making. We were not really encouraged to think for ourselves, take initiative, so to speak, kind of veer off from the family system. And that's just because of where my parents came from. That they wanted to make sure that we were really protected and that they really had their finger on the pulse of what we were all doing. So we were not really given much leeway to stray very far. So that muscle came much later in life, that the strength of that came later in life for me because I knew that I needed to strengthen that. So in many points in my life, I found and expressed my voice. It was slow, but I decided that that was a commitment I was going to make to myself. The thing is, it wasn't consistent really until I was much older. And it wasn't until really about 5 years ago that I became much more convicted about who I am, what I want, what I will and won't allow in my life, and how I want to live my life. And I can honestly tell you that doing this podcast, it has helped me tremendously with that too. What you don't know is that the first 4 recordings that I did on this podcast was with a constricted throat. I was freaking out. I started to have a panic attack. I thought, oh my God, what if people don't like it? What if I cuss? And what if people are uncomfortable with it? I had all these fears around just speaking to y'all like I'm doing now. And really there was a lot of anxiety coming with it, especially around being accepted and being a perfectionist. So literally the first 4 episodes, my throat was closing up and I had to pause a lot. Then one day, guess what I said? I said, to heck with it. And I spoke my mind naturally, as the same way I'm doing now. And I didn't care how much I cussed, whether I messed up while I recorded or whether or not everybody liked what I had to say. I guarantee you, a lot of y'all aren't so keen on some of the things that I say. But I thank you for continuing to listen because I mean well. And while my language is so funny, I tell people I can hang with the queen and talk with the truckers. I really can. And my hope is that no matter what language I use, you'll be able to connect with it, relate to it, and feel like it's helpful. So being controversial has become a non-issue for me because I've just become comfortable in my skin, and doing this podcast and getting the amazing responses that I have, it's like just confirming that I'm on the right path. So it's really, really liberating. And that's the whole point of today's episode, is to really help you understand the liberation and you being able to speak your mind. And I'm going to get into the quality of speaking your mind, because there really is a quality. And being able to use your voice when you know you need to. And it doesn't mean that you always use your voice. Sometimes being quiet is the best voice you can use. And we'll talk about that. So I believe that to find your voice, you got to get sick and tired of some of the shit you accept in your life. And that includes you not speaking up. That includes you not being an advocate for yourself. You have to reach a pivotal point in your life where the things that you believed matter, the ones that held you back from your true expression, they don't matter anymore. Those are the fears that I had. And that you recognize them just as they all are, which is just fearful thoughts and nothing more. One of the things I want to talk to y'all about is projection. It's a clinical term, but literally it's a literal term too. So y'all been to the movies, you know there's a projector and it projects onto the screen. Well, any of you who have fears, like I did, about kind of coming out of your spiritual closet or doing something you love that not everybody's going to agree with, but you're happy, one of the most important things is that we tend to what's called project our fears onto other people. We worry about what we think they'll say, when 99.99% of the time, I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'm serious, nobody really gives a shit about what you do. They really don't. I mean, yes, the people that care about you do, but for the most part, nobody else really gives a shit. They pay attention for 5 seconds. Most people are so consumed with their life, they don't have time to monitor you and to see whether or not what you're saying has come true or is true or whatever. So just know that. Like, on the one hand, that kind of sounds kind of crappy about life, but it's the truth. And on the other hand, let it be the liberating element for you to do what you want to do in your life that's good for you, okay? So finding your voice is easy. And in all honesty, you don't have to find it at all because it's already there. It's in your head. If you think about the kind of thoughts that you have, if you actually sat and just paid attention, that's your voice. It's how you talk to yourself about yourself, your life, your conditions. It's your gut instinct that tells you what to do, what not to do, who to trust, who not to trust. and what your next move is. It's expressing it in a way that's integrity filled and true for you, that really, for the most part, is the most challenging part for us. So when we fear losing family members and friends, losing the popular vote, being rejected, disliked, and ostracized, when we imagine ourselves expressing what we truly feel and think, this is the biggest fear that we have. It's the fear of rejection. And I'll tell you this again, nobody gives a shit. Yeah, people talk about stuff, but trust me, that's because they don't want to pay attention to their own lives. And the entertainment factor about somebody else screwing up lasts for about 30 seconds. So, y'all, move on. Speak your truth. So I want to check in with y'all to see if this makes sense to you. My hope is that it does. I've experienced this over and over and over again. And recently, in my relationship with my boyfriend, I've had to speak up very frankly with him. And he's done that at different times for me. Now, it's not the best feeling in the world to have somebody be so direct and perhaps kind of bruise your ego. But in any high quality relationship, honesty with love is a must. So I actually love it when we have our direct conversations about what we feel and what we need. It allows us to resolve what we need without leaving anything lingering. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to speak your truth. But one of the things that I emphasize to people that I work with about learning how to express yourself is it's all about the intention and motivation from which you come, right? So if you have the malicious intent to be hurtful, you're going to. If you have the intent to simply share where you're at, how you say things is going to be very, very different. You're not going to be pointing the finger at the other person. You're simply going to be speaking from a place of I feel, I need, I'm confused, help me. This is what's going on with me. Okay. So my dear, you are already in touch with your voice. You know that one, where you're cussing someone out in your mind but being all sweet to their face, that's your voice. Or that thought of, I don't like this food, or I don't want to go to the party, or I really wish she loved me, or if I only had a job that allowed me to live at the beach. You see, those thoughts are your voice. That's why I told you that you don't have to find your voice. You just need to give yourself permission to use it and get your needs met. So if, for example, you're in a job and you really want to say something to your boss and you know you really can't because you're going to lose your job, pay attention to your voice. And then, meaning pay attention to your thoughts, think about what you can do to shift what you say and how you think so that your experience is more positive, regardless of what's around you, regardless of who you encounter, regardless of what you experience. Your voice, the way you speak to yourself, the way you speak to others, is the key that determines really your gauge of happiness in your life. How do you speak about your life? How do you speak about yourself? How do you handle yourself in situations where, you may be disgruntled or somebody's bothered you and you feel this urge to rip them up one side and down the other? Trust me, I've had those days. But for the first time, I remember since being a kid where I really had literally no filter, I have worked consciously to withhold blurting out. Sometimes it's hard, but I really practice having a good intention when I share what I speak. And I kind of screw up sometimes, but I learn from it, and that's the whole point. So I always say, I do my best to speak with integrity, honor, and compassion for somebody else and myself. For without malicious intent, your mind and heart will be clean of any malintent. So what I'd like to encourage y'all to do is take a moment to write down some thoughts that you have. Even keep a journal and notice how you write and express yourself and what you write about. If you have this dream, I wish I could write a book, or I wish I could own my own business, or I wish I could take that trip to Bali. Guess what? People figure that shit out all the time. It's just a matter of you giving your voice the due stage that it needs. Because those things that you know you really want, they'll keep coming up and coming up and coming up. And you know what? One of the best things to do is to live without regret. So notice the ways that you keep yourself stuck by resisting change or withholding your opinion and not being okay with the decision you made. All of this is about your voice. Look at those things and see how in the next moment that you have to share your opinion, see how you can overcome your fears and just speak your truth with kindness and goodness. I'm telling y'all, it's the road to freedom. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I always try to find some new and good content that will help y'all, especially that I found that helps me and that helps my clients. And my hope is that you'll feel good knowing you don't have to find your voice. You already got it. It's a matter of how you choose to express it and when. Because only you can imprison and withhold what you really want to say to other people and how you view your life. And my hope is that as you review your thoughts, as you think about how you want your life to be, you'll be your own advocate and you'll speak your truth, not to the detriment of anybody else, but to your benefit. I wish you a wonderful day, a blessed week, and always live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist with Janis R. Cohen. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review at iTunes.